Check 1 2, check 1 2. What is going on, everybody? It's your good buddy David. I'm in the house. It is time for some circle talk. Let me make sure I'm able to be heard. Check 1 2, check 1 2. What? That means I'm on. What's going on, y'all? I appreciate everyone for showing up today. It is time for some circle talk this Saturday. I'm excited to have my good friend Anthony Andrisek in the building. Me and this guy, we go way, way back. From back on the hilltop. Playing basketball at any park, People Center, Al Davies, man, the YMCA, any place where there was a hoop and a basketball, we were there together. And you know me, I used to run a lot. This dude used to play a lot. He was good. I was just there. and he has grown up and has become such a very educated young man. He's actually doing really, really big things with health and wealth. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, talk about his family, talk about, his work ethic and what he has coming on in his future with his life and his faith, because if it wasn't for him in his faith, he probably wouldn't be where he's at today. So we're going to jump in and get deep into learn a little bit about Anthony Andrisek. But first, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, starting with iShotty.com. Thank you so much, Marvin Patterson, for always being an influential part of what we do. And one of the things that I want to do before I move on past iShotty.com, I want to say a huge shout out to Marvin Patterson for having me come on in and be a part of the all-white party going on May 29th here in Washington. It's going down. It's $40 to get in. It's $2 or two people for $70. So if you're a couple, it's $70 to get into this event. One person, $40. It's going to be a blast. If you guys remember the GSL All the Way Live New Year's Eve party, it was lit. This one's going to be just as good, if not better. Why? Because we're going to be all dressed in white. And you know me, I love wearing white. So it's going down May 29th. Any information that you guys need to know about that, I will drop it in the comments later. But thank you so much, Marvin, for putting my name in the pot and allowing me to be a part of that. I'll be doing some media work, guys. So watch out for me going live from the all-white party May 29th. Next, we're going to go ahead and give a shout out to ICON Ent. My guy, Junior Thomas, is getting ready for some events that he's going on. He just came back from I think he went to Cancun. He didn't tell nobody he was going, but him and his wife ended up going to Cancun and having a wonderful time. He's got plans for this summer. We're going to get together and do some fun things, exciting things. So watch out for ICON Ent coming out. And then last but not least, the Chayah movement. Shout out to my girl Zakiya for continuing to be one of the greatest pieces of Tacoma from a female's perspective. There are so many greats, but this one, she's been doing a lot. She's not only worked with the kids, she's designing clothing using rags and turning them to riches. So if anybody has some clothing locally in the Washington area that they don't necessarily need, get in contact with Zakiya. She'll take those clothes and turn those things around and make them amazing pieces of attire for someone else that could really use it. So thank you so much, Zakiya, for being a part of this. And thank you all sponsors, all my sponsors for continuing to ride with me. So without further ado, we're going to get into it. We're going to bring my guy in, Anthony Andrisek. He is sitting at the park because his house is full of people. And unfortunately, my guy got COVID. So we're going to talk a little bit. Here we go. I gave all the business. Did I say everything?
Man, it was a good intro. I was actually thinking man, okay, he's giving me the business with all the intros. So I'm gonna live up to it. I'm gonna live up to it, baby. Yeah. No, you did great.
Hey man, I really, really, really do appreciate you, man. I know that you are dealing with some COVID right now. And I was when you told me about that, I was like, dang, hopefully he ain't got the strand that I had, because he won't be there on Saturday.
Man, it's crazy. What's crazy with it though is I had people that knew I got it. So I've been having people saying, they send you those text messages like, hey man, you really okay? What I mean? So people are concerned, but I'm kind of just chill. I'm chill with it. So
that's cool. Yeah. That's cool. I think one of the great things about you, and I would say the reason why you're just really healthy I mean, even if you got it,
I
you have a healthy body. You work out daily. You eat healthy. I'm sure all of that kind of helps keep you in a place where, yeah, it's on you, but
yeah.
it's not gonna be as hard as if it was someone that wasn't working out and eating properly as you do. So
Yeah.
definitely, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you're doing well, and I appreciate you for being here today. So what's going on though? Like, how's the fam? How's everybody doing?
We're good, man. I got three kids, man. I got a 12-year-old daughter, man. She plays AU basketball, and she's got a tournament this next weekend. She's just killing these tournaments, sixth grade, and it's just a joy, a
Mhm.
joy. I never really thought when I was having my kids how much excitement I would have watching your kids do these athletic events, and how
Yeah, yeah.
mentally I get into it. When she's playing, I think I'm playing. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right,
I'm
right.
like,
Yeah.
grab the ball, shoot, you find your angle. I'm like into the game. I'm one of those dads, and I never thought I'd be like one of those dads. I thought I'd just sit
Right.
back, reserve. So it's a joy. And then I got my two boys who are my rugrats, man. These guys, I'm sure they make me think of manhood in a whole different realm. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because,
Yeah.
I didn't think I would have three kids, but then I have two young men, and it's just a difference when you have men. It's a different.
Hmm.
It's a different. I mean, being a dad or a parent is hard and challenging, but my two
Right.
boys, man, I got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they keep us
Absolutely.
busy. They keep us
That's
busy, man.
cool.
But
Yeah,
it's good,
as they
man.
supposed to, as
And
they
then,
supposed to.
yeah,
I
and then
mean,
my wife. Go ahead.
how's wifey doing? How's
She's
wifey doing?
she's good. She's good.
Yeah,
She's my rock. She holds me down. She
absolutely.
holds me accountable. And
Absolutely.
we've been married 18 years and together for 22. So we've
Man,
grown
I
up with
remember
each
when y'all
other.
was first together, bro, when you brought her around. I was like,
Loving
who's this?
basketball.
Yep. I
Yep.
remember when you first got her around, brought her around. I was like, okay, look at that. Got him a little something,
Dude.
something.
Well,
You
I
know?
met her. I met her at the Y.
Yeah. Yeah.
I met her at the Y, bro, and I didn't know I didn't shoot. It's just it's worked out great. It's,
Absolutely, absolutely.
so
Shout out to
yeah,
her,
man.
man. She's
Thanks.
been there. I remember the very
She has.
beginning. I felt like I watched you guys grow, through. I mean, you
Mhm.
guys had some ups and downs, which every couple does, but you guys made
Yeah,
it work, and
yeah,
through the grace of God, you guys are still here and still pushing, and
yeah.
blessings.
Faith's yeah, faith's a big part of that for sure, no doubt,
Absolutely.
like 100%.
We'll get into the faith part, but let's just,
Yeah.
me, I like to share your upbringing with the people, because I think everybody needs to understand where you come from. I
Hmm.
know, because we grown up together and we've had plenty of conversations, but let's talk to the people about it. Some people out here that may not know you and may want to get to know you. So let's take it back. Where did it all
Hmm.
start for you? Where were you born? Family life. Talk a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, that's got layers. I'm from Tacoma, Washington. I grew up East Tacoma. My mother, she bought her, we bought a house. She bought her house off my grandfather, so we did have a home, and but growing up, it was pretty tough because my mother, she had emotional issues, and she had a hard time financially taking care of us kids, and
Mhm.
I was kind of like the kid that was a little bit more like high energy. So
Yeah, yeah,
we used to butt heads, but with that being said, it was like my mom was trying to find the way to support us kids, to raise us, to deal with us, and she didn't have a really strong education and also emotional background, and so she really struggled, and we did too, as young boys growing up, because we would talk back, and some of the almost like CPS cases, right, at
yeah.
times. So, but what my mom did right, and what I felt like I figured out right away, and I remember being in kind of elementary, and I was pretty good at sports. I was pretty good at sports, and basketball it was one of those sports that kept me grounded. And I think with like any of us, like something that keeps your focus, something that's positive, something that you can gravitate to. So I really just clung on to sports, and I played sports often. And back when we were growing up, we didn't have the technology and distractions. We just played outside. You know, you just rode your bikes, you played football, baseball, basketball. So I played, you know, grew up in the neighborhood, playing with my friends, had a hard home life. No one really knew some of those things other than maybe a few close friends. And I just wanted to, you know, try to do the right things, but at the same time, trying to manage some of the issues that were going on at home, you know, in a way that that I can try to make normal out of non-normal. So
Absolutely.
if that gives you a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, me and you, we kind of have the same story, but you know, obviously we have different backgrounds as far as where we come from, and you know,
Yeah.
whatnot. I mean, I was born in Tacoma. I was on the hilltop. You was on the east side. I was great at sports. You was great at sports. Like,
Yep.
but when we met, I mean, I don't know if it was Al Davies. I don't know if it was People Center. I don't know if it was the YMCA. I think it was the YMCA, but I mean, you also played
Stadium.
ball.
Stadium. You played
I mean,
Stadium, didn't you? You went to Stadium.
but didn't you? Yeah, you didn't play. You didn't play no AAU
No.
ball.
Yeah, I did. I played my 7th and 8th grade year. That's
Okay,
actually that story. That's a whole other story to how I actually made it through high school. If you want to hear it, I mean, I don't know. I don't
absolutely,
want. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's
yeah.
hear
No,
it.
I played AAU basketball for Coach Michael Bradley. Michael
Okay,
Bradley. I don't know if you know Michael
yeah,
Bradley, but he
yeah.
ran the
You
people.
know, I know
He ran
Michael
the People
Bradley.
Center. Yeah.
Yep.
So I played for Michael Bradley because I got connected to Michael when I was hooping at Eastside Boys and Girls Club. I used to go to the Al Davies Boys and Girls Club, and I used to put in work over
Yeah.
there at Al Davies. And you know the craziest thing about Al Davies is like if you from the East Side or you're from the Hilltop, there could be some rifting, right? But I always got showed love when I was at
Yeah.
Al
Yeah.
Davies, man. I cast if you
Yeah.
could hoop, you could hoop. So Michael Bradley used to. I met Michael at Al Davies, and then he was like, "Hey, why don't you go into the People Center?" And then I don't know if you remember Reggie. Reggie used to
I
be at the
do.
People Center. So I used to get up
Absolutely.
to the People Center, man, and I ended up getting on the team with Michael, and I went to Stadium my freshman and sophomore year, basically flunked out of school because I was tardy. You know, you're missing too many classes. So basically,
Yeah.
I fell behind, and so remember Michael coming to McKinley Park because I used to just play at McKinley Park from morning till night. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
For
where
sure.
I hooped all day long, and so he comes up there and he's like, "Hey man, you know, what are you trying to do with your life?" He just has the pep talk with me. And I was
Mhm.
just like, I can't go home, Mike. And he was like, what are you talking about? You can't go home. I was like, my mom kicks me out the house. I got to find other places to stay.
Yeah.
She's not the greatest. He's like, you know, he couldn't believe what I was telling him. So he went and talked to my mom, realizes like I'm in a real crisis. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So he was like, listen, me and Coach Michael Rogers, we're going to try and get you another place to stay. Do you want to come to Chief Leshai? And I was like, what's Chief Leshai? I didn't even know where Chief Leshai was at. So
Yeah.
they got me at Chief Leshai, man. He was just like, listen, man, he's just like, you need to go to school, get good grades. And he's just like, you can play for me, but you need to be serious. And so I was like,
Mhm.
man, if you can get me in a better living situation, I was like, 100% I'll focus on school and hoop. And that's all I really, really did from that point on. So but I went to Stadium my freshman and
Yeah.
sophomore year. I
Yeah.
really wanted to play for Stadium. Uh, I wanted to be part of the Tiger
Yeah.
culture and Chris Hippa and all the athletes that I was looking up to at the
Yeah.
time. Andy Hippa, you know, we had a really good freshman class, bro. I mean, like Stadium, we had some talent at Stadium. Um,
Ballers. Ballers.
yeah, and a lot of my good friends that just from going there those couple of years and just playing at the Y, they were my dogs, and so many fantasies of conversation. Like if I would have stayed, what would have happened? But you know, that's all in the past. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about you. You said a little bit about the YMCA, and I think it's crazy that I'm bringing this up, but at the same time, at some point, we was going to venture into this realm of things.
Mhm.
The YMCA played a huge part in a lot of our lives.
Hundred
You
percent.
know, me and you have so many similarities when it comes to our stories. You know, when it comes to being lost in the system, not having a family support system to hold me down and give me that courage to want to be something other than you know, stuck in this rut that we're going through inside of our home. You know, like when I went to school, like I had this facade, like everything was funny and I made a total lot of jokes. But then when I leave school, it was like, where am I going next? What am I going to do with myself? Just like you went to the court, shot ball all day long, you know? And
Right.
when did the YMCA come into effect for you, and how influential was it for you?
Man, that's beautiful. So right now, I don't know if you know Charles Carson. So we actually talked the other day, and Charles
Yeah,
Carson started late night. If anyone
absolutely.
who grew up in the late night program back in the '90s, remember Charles Carson started late night with some of the other leadership up there. And
Yeah,
so I started going to late night when I was like around 12, 13. I actually was a little bit younger than the program recommended because they were really trying to help at-risk youth. You know what I mean? They were
right.
trying to tie in the east side Tacoma kids and the hilltop kids, because a lot of us were dying or getting shot in the
Yeah.
streets and falling into patterns of living that weren't the best. And so they were trying to save these kids. And so I started going to Y as a youngster. And so basically Fridays and Saturdays, you had to get down there early, check your stuff in. And
Hmm.
that I started going down there. And then from there, I started building those relationships with the leadership, and that
Yeah.
leadership started investing in my life and others. And I remember talking to Charles. We just did a little sit down for the documentary, and we were saying I had told him, and shout out to Andy Hip, because we did it together on the
Yeah.
documentary, and we were talking about those sit down talks, man. Those 10:30 talks. I don't. Do you remember those, David?
I do.
With
I do. When they
yeah,
stopped all the basketball and they made us sit
yeah,
down and sit on the
yeah,
bench, and they have a,
yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah,
remember. Absolutely.
it didn't matter if the score was 7-10. You keep scoring, and then we'll sit down and we'll resume the game after. But
Yeah,
yeah, so we
absolutely.
used to sit down and talk, and we talk about God. We would talk about issues in the street. We would be able to share, and it was a dialogue, and it felt like it was like a community. It was like family. It was like all the things that you're looking for, that sense of connection and tribe. And so from going to late night and then getting older in my teenage years, even going into college, and then even in my adult life, it was like different stages of like developing. And like when they
Mhm.
really say the why builds strong families and strong communities, I feel like I'm really a product of that. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
Though, just
Absolutely.
because of the values, and it's like the church. It's not the building; it's the people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the people really made a difference. The ones who were hired at that time in that era, and even the members who were coming in that facility. I mean, some of the big wigs. I didn't know how important some of these people. These were judges, attorneys,
Yeah.
business women and men, and I was rubbing elbows with some of these people, and they like I could reach out to them. And so knowing that, I was like, man, I gotta stay connected. And so that's why I stayed connected, because it was positive, and I can hoop, and I can do the athletic things that I like to do, and it was all encompassing. It was all encompassing
Absolutely.
to like what I like to do. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you said, it wasn't the building, it was the people, it was the conversations, it was, the the want to help. They wanted to
Yes.
help us get into a
Yes.
better place. They wanted to see us grow in a
Mm-hmm.
positive way versus what we had been seeing outside of those walls. A lot of times,
Yeah.
like you said, a lot of our friends getting shot and killed, a lot of gang violence and drug abuse and
Right.
prostitution, even all this stuff
Right.
was transpiring right there on the hilltop east side, and they cared enough to create this. Charles Carson and the rest of them created something to help us learn that there are better places out there for us, better things for us to do, and how we can get
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah.
shout out to all those people. Phil Carson, Charles, or Phil
Yeah.
Carter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Phil
Um,
Carter. Phil Carter.
Charles Carson,
Cecilia.
um,
Cecilia
CC,
Vagos.
yeah, CC. Shout out to CC.
Yeah.
I mean,
Brian
there's the
Burns.
whole team.
Brian Burns. Brian, you remember
Brian
Brian from the
Burns,
Hilltop?
bro. There's so many
Evans.
amazing people. I would say just if it wasn't for that crew, they were all amazing. Not one bad egg in all of them. Even the ones that was going through their struggles still made it an opportunity and took the time out of their struggles to try and save us. And that's huge. It's such a big part of my life and yours, obviously. So shout out to all of them people down at the YMCA and People Center, even, all those people
100%.
that really wanted to see us be successful in a positive way. So after high school, you move on, you go to college, you play some college ball, right?
Yep. I played I wasn't the smartest crayon in the box. I didn't, and I was actually, I joke around with this because I actually was smart. I just didn't have a strong enough foundation education, like you should. And so I had to, college was tough on me, man. I went to Yakima Valley my first year coming out of Chief Leschi, and it was kind of a really good community college going there because they had a good program academically and for basketball. And I was trying to get to D1. And so anyway, I had a high school sweetheart that I was hung up on, and I just really wasn't mature. So I ended up going there for a quarter. I couldn't handle it. They wanted to redshirt me because they felt like I still needed to develop into their system. And they also wanted to save some years, because I guess if I redshirt, you get 2 more additional years, and they already had a good team. So the coach said, hey, if we could develop this guy and keep him in the program, and then also my grades. And so anyway, I go to Yakima, come back, I end up working, and then I get my stuff back together, and I end up going to Green River Community College, and I did community college, and then I ended up going to Evergreen State. And so, but it took me some time, but I ended up playing some college ball. I finished junior college with a very good group. And then I was going to play for Evergreen, but the coach who recruited me took another job midsummer, and then they recruited another guy I wasn't in favor of, and I decided to be a student at that point. And so that was a good choice, I feel like, for me. Obviously, I wanted to think that, hey, if I would have stick with it, but I made a good choice because I was able to focus on just school and work, and I got married to Nicole, and we just got married. So yeah. Anyway,
I think this is just on the basketball side. When we was coming up, I always thought of you as one of the baddest contenders, the toughest guards. I mean,
thanks, man.
The toughest guards. I mean, not just because you're quick, but I mean, you're mobile, you're agile. I mean,
it's changing now. I'm 42. Yeah. It's changing, man. It changes on you.
But he was a tough guard.
We played. We took. I mean, we come from that generation. You took sports serious, and back when we was growing up, we played with some tough cats, and you couldn't be soft. And so, if you could to step on the court, like you had to come with it. Like you couldn't sidestep it, half step it. If you did, you get exposed. People would clown you, and so I took pride in that. I wanted to dish it out. I wanted to compete and just play with my heart, and like you hear these athletes talking now. I played like it was the last game every game. And
I want to say one thing too, man. I want to thank you for giving me Charles Carson's number, and just let y'all know, watch out for Charles Carson's documentary. It's going to be an amazing thing. I'm really blessed to be asked to be a part of it. I talked to Charles, a couple days ago, and we had such a intellectual conversation. And one of the things that Charles always said about me is that I did not like him. And the thing was, it wasn't like I didn't like him as a person. Yeah. It was just Charles would show up to the gym and he would always win. He'd always put together these
super teams. And you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, how are you going to have Eric Bowles and Ron McMahon on the same team? And like,
and they always win. I always wanted to beat him. And he knows we bantered a lot, but at the end of the day, like I had mad respect for Charles Carson. Guys, I'm telling you, watch out for his documentary. He's going to be on Circle Talk as well. We've already talked about it. Watch out next month. We're going to have a sit-down conversation with Charles Carson. That one's going to be amazing just as much as this one is. Anthony's my guy.
Also, David, if anyone, whoever's watching this, that's from the 1990 late night program or has
Mm,
been involved in the Y in the late night program, they need to contact you or I because their voice needs to be heard in the documentary,
absolutely.
and that's what Charles is trying to do because I don't think he can remember everybody, and there's
Yeah.
so many
Yeah.
people that program's touched, and it's made a
Mhm.
difference in their life, and we all share a sense of connection for have came through there. And so
Yeah.
if anyone feels comfortable and they would like to reach out, that'd be kind of cool just to make that documentary that much richer. You know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
Good one. Good side note. So let's
Yep.
let's jump into it, man. We didn't
Talk to
talk a
me.
little. We haven't really talked about your dad much.
Mm-mm.
I told you I wanted to touch on this because as long as I've known you, I've known about your moms. I didn't really know a whole lot about dad. So tell us a little bit about your dad, man.
My dad, yeah, man. So my dad was born in 1921, and he was from Houston, Texas. And
Mm.
basically, I don't know a whole lot from the early upbringings, but
Right. Right.
retired military, served 28 years in United States Army, was a sergeant general, did things doing that, served in two world wars, and basically met my mom here in Washington. And
Mm.
so he was like 56, 57 when he had us kids. My mom was like 31. And so
Wow.
he had us late. And then just a normal upbringing. Dad was, ex-military. He didn't take any crap off us kids. He worked on cars. He was the
Yeah.
repairman
Yeah.
and handyman, you name it, just the old school dad, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. For sure.
his name was ICON Morgan Jr. And basically just I remember dad, just he was my superhero. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
dad was like, he was six. And no one knows this. My mom's actually 5'3", and my dad is 6'7". My dad is
Wow.
no, because I'm 5'9". So like
Yeah.
and my brother Aaron's 6'1", my younger brother. So like
Yeah.
no one knows my dad was actually really tall. And so anyway, raising us kids, doing his thing, and he fell into bad health, and he got lung cancer. He passed away when I was when I was around 10 or 11. And then from that point on, that was, his rest in peace. And so
Yeah.
what I
Absolutely.
knew of my dad, he was just all about education. He wanted us to respect our mother. He was really big on education because back in those days, even nowadays, we talk about the disparity with minorities getting education, and it was really hard for African Americans back then to pursue education.
Hmm.
And so where he came from, my mom used to talk about. He used to say he didn't want to end up dead in Texas growing up in those
Mm.
days. So his choice was to join the military, and that was a better choice. Even you couldn't really find work, but you could maybe find work in the military and get paid, in the military and learn a job or a craft. So anyway, that was dad. I remember that. I don't remember a whole lot. Some things come back to me, but it feels
Yeah. Yeah.
good to anchor my heart on knowing that he served our country. I always have
Yeah.
pride and dignity in our national anthem.
Absolutely.
No disrespect to, Colin Kaepernick and some of the other people that follow that, but I hold in my heart standing up for the flag and because I think of my father serving the country. And so
Yeah.
I have that anchor in my heart feeling like, hey, my dad contributed to the things that I'm aspiring for, the things that other people are aspiring for. So honestly, I would play fantasies in my mind about dad when I was going through hard times. I would say, what would dad want me to do? And I would try to
Mhm.
think like he would say. I think he would say, stay strong. And I always think like, if he can deal with what he dealt with, I can deal with what I can deal with. You know what I mean? So it
Yeah. For
always
sure.
kind of like maybe my safe haven, my mind was thinking about dad who served in the war. He was a strong man. I got to be a strong man. And so I'd kind of like be able to think about that. So it was kind of cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me jump. I'm gonna jump over to my next
Yep.
question, and it's about faith. Like, when did you actually find yourself when it came to your walk
God,
with God? Yeah.
man, I felt like I knew God from a young boy. I think I always knew God was there. I would look in the sky at times, and I would think when I was going through hard times, and I would think about God, and I always felt like I had a connection to wanting to get to know God. I just wasn't ready to give my life to God in a sense.
Hmm.
So from a little boy, I always felt like I knew God. There was something bigger than myself. And so
Mhm.
going into, I got water baptized. I did all those things that were sacramental. I got raised actually off and on in a Lutheran church. My mom was Catholic. And so
Okay.
she used to take us to a Lutheran church. We was the only black kids in the Lutheran church. So we,
Yeah.
do the hymns and stuff. We had the nappy hair, and my mom didn't know how to
Yeah.
keep care of our hair, man. She'd be like,
Yep.
she said, put some TCB in it. I'd be like, all of my other black homies, they got nice cuts.
Yeah.
We got the Michael Jackson afros, and
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So you know what I mean. We try to get it
Yep.
right. And so
I
I grew up,
remember.
in church, and I always felt, like I said, I just like I knew that it's something when people are living right for God, and you're in that atmosphere, you feel it. You either
Yeah.
feel drawn to it or nervous about it because it's convicting you. And I always felt like I knew something was there. And so when I was around 19, 20, I had a friend named Anthony Boyd who said, "Hey, man, I need you to help me with this Young Life group, and I would love for you to just be part of it. I just need I just need an older dude who's about the same age as these cats to help manage, right?" So I go to this
Mhm.
Young Life camp, and I'm in this. It's actually through the YMCA, and I'm at this camp with all these young kids. They're like 2, 3, 4 years younger than me, but they're struggling with some of the same stuff I just was struggling with or
Yeah.
in maturing out of. You know what I mean, though? So
All
they're
right.
cussing, they're acting a fool. I'm saying, hey, man, we can't talk like that here. All the things that people used to tell me, right? So
Yep. Absolutely.
it's a week-long camp. We go to this, at night, we go to, it's kind of like, your church at night. We talk, they had it at the evening. You just talk about God, and people could choose to give their life to Christ. So every night went by. I was like, this is not my thing. And so the last night they showed a video, and churches are really good with this. It's kind of like they draw you in with the message. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah. For sure.
the video was powerful, and I felt like Jesus died for my sins, and it's by His grace that I'm saved. And so the things that were pressing on my heart from a little boy up until that time, I was like, this can't be wrong. And if it's wrong, then I would rather go this route in believing it's right. You know what I mean? In a sense, because when you
Yeah.
step on faith, you don't know what's on the other side. And so
Absolutely.
doing
Mhm.
that, it was like let's do this. And so I gave my life to Christ, and it was like joy. It was like it was like that yoke of just the things that I was holding on to, my father, my mother, everything that I felt like it was burdened by. It was just like, Christ says, I got you. And I just felt that Holy Spirit. And I come back into
Yeah.
town, and I remember, just the weirdest thing is, I remember I was actually in junior college, and I'm driving to Green River, about to go to practice. And back then you just listen to like we do now, we listen to our music, we into our music. And the
Yeah. Yeah.
message that I was listening to, it was all the stuff that was, I'm like, this ain't even, my spirit was sensitive to it. I didn't want to listen to it. I just turned the
Right.
radio off. I was like, man, my spirit is just sensitive to this stuff. And it was like almost like my spiritual eyes were opening. It was like
Mm.
God was calling me. And so I remember talking, because basically when you get saved, there's still homework. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you got to
Oh yeah.
read your Bible. You get connected, and talk to people that are of God, and live in that life, because it's a different nature. It's a different
Yeah. For
nature. And
sure.
so as I began to read, people said, you need to get water baptized, and I did this when I was younger, but I did it because my mom told us to do it, and I just did it.
Yeah.
But I
Of
did
course.
it more now under a different conscience of symbolic, saying I want to lay down my sins. So I get water baptized, and it just like evolved from there, man. And I'm not perfect in my life today, and I don't pretentiously act like that, but I 150% am quick to repent. I am quick to like say Jesus
Mhm.
Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I'm 100% saved by grace, not of myself. And the powerful thing in being a believer is knowing that, hey, that's why I need Christ. If I'm not right, that is exactly why I need God. You know what I mean, though?
Yep.
Because I
Amen to that.
need I need to understand that it's Him, it's Him. It's not about me. Like when I'm
Yeah.
unfaithful, He remains faithful. You know what I mean, though?
Facts.
So
Facts.
that's where my life's at. And when I'm in the hardest times of my life, I'm like, okay, what God, what's up? You know what I
What
mean? I mean, I prayed this morning. I got up right
What do you
after
want me to do? Where do you want me to
praying.
go?
Yes, I said my prayer. And my prayers are not long. You know, sometimes I'm just thanking God for my kids. I thank God for the day. I thank God for where I'm living. I thank God for I got food. And I pray for people because it hurts me to see. You know, the way life is now, man, there's so much people are contending with, man. There's so much. Some people are really doing great and you want to applaud that, but there's a lot of people hurting. And so I hate
Yeah.
seeing people hurting. And when I see people, you know, look like they might not be doing the best or not in their right mind, it bothers me because it should bother all of us. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Sure.
Because
Yeah. Sure.
we are connected whether we're living the wrong lifestyle. Like it's like, you know, seeing someone get murdered, it should bother you to see someone suffer. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it bothers. So I pray for people. I just pray for life, and I pray to try and be good. You know, not be good to people, but just say, God, how do you want to use me today? Let me
Yeah.
think. Let me think your thoughts. Let me speak your words. Let me do these things that are your nature. Because if it's just me, I'm not going to function right. So
Well,
I just let
you're right.
God's grace be. I let God's grace be God's grace each day that I can.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when you say God's grace, one of the things that I overheard you talking about is your family. Like, how important is you to instill these thoughts and these feelings into the kids, and pray with your wife. Sit down and have prayer with your wife, and conversations with your wife about your guys's walks with God. Do you guys do that often? How does that work at the home, the Andrisek home? I think you hit the mute button. Are you there? Hold up. I can't hear you. Let me check on my phone. Say something. Hold up. I can't hear you. Let me check on my phone. Say something. Hold up. Maybe your earpiece has died, bro, because I can't hear you. Maybe your earpiece has died, bro, because I can't hear you. All right. Well, we'll wait a few minutes. Excuse me. We'll wait a few minutes and see if we can get Anthony back on, guys. Sorry about the inconvenience. I think his earpiece has died, so let's get him back on and see what's going down.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Can you
now,
hear me?
bro. I can hear you. Yeah,
Okay,
there
good.
you
Yeah,
are.
so I don't know. Maybe my earpieces are no. Actually just charged those, so they're good. I was hearing
Okay.
you. I just couldn't. You couldn't hear me. Okay, so the question was my kids, my household, right? The my
Yeah.
like
How,
the
how does how
so
does your
so
faith?
well, that's so it's funny. So like in any household, it's not perfect, but I think what happens is that you learn to have to practice these values, these virtues in
Mhm.
your home. And so like if the kids are talking a certain way or if we're talking a certain way, if it's in a negative way, we check ourselves like, is that Christ like? And one of the things that I talk to the kids about is like how we practice how we treat each other in this house is how we'll practice treating people outside when we go
Yeah.
outside of this house. So I was like, how you guys talk to each other now is how you'll talk to your friends, your teachers, and whoever else. So I was just like, let's practice good habits. And as it goes for me, it goes for your mother, and it goes for your kids. So we practice in the house like and constantly, you know, like I love you son, you know, or I love you kids, love you guys. We're all about like just trying to say I love you as much as we can and uplift each
Yeah.
other and look to help each other. So and sometimes like I said, you're not, it's not like we're thinking about the Bible every day, but I do think it's like you have to practice um the righteous things in your home. And so those are the things we try to, pray at dinner, or, tucking the kids in. It might be like, hey, I love you. You had a great day. And let me pray for you real quick. Or is there anything you want to pray about? Sometimes my kids are like, no, get out of here. They'll say silly stuff, and I'll say, okay, God loves you, I love you, and Mom loves you. Good night. Just so I just try to put these seeds in their mind. And I remember being a little kid, when you're hearing a bunch of nonsense and you're constantly being fed and told you're not this and told you're not that, you're almost like speaking death style into your that person. So when we're saying these things, when we're saying things that are not God's nature, right? We're pretty much we're cursing them, or not saying like using the F words and all the language, but it's just like we want to pour into our the people we love and care about. We want to pour into them, and
Yeah.
and that's important. And I think about that with my kids. I want to pour into them, and I try to think, how am I pouring into them? How am I pouring into them? Because there's things that I can give them and Mom can give them, but there's also things we can't give them. And so we just do the best we can by trying to pour the right things in them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
all we can do. That's
Yeah.
all we can do.
Yeah.
So I don't want to keep you too much longer, because I know you got a house full of kids, and
No, I'm
wife is
good.
probably
I'm
like,
I'm
wife is
good.
probably like, when is he coming back?
No, she don't. She cares, but she's like, I'm glad. No, I don't know what she'll say actually. With your spouse, it could be moods, man. You never know. She might
Yeah.
just be laying watching a show, but no,
Yeah, she might be just chilling. Might just be chilling.
she's chilling. She's actually working on some. She's working on a schedule because we're busy this with the kids' program, so she's working on the schedule. So anyway.
So what's coming up next? I know you've been doing a lot of meeting people and teaching people about, is
The
it the R
rebar,
bar? Is that what you call it?
R3 bar, our rebar.
R3 bar.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you want to break a little bit into what that's all about? Because I'm still learning what it's about myself.
You gotta, man. We gotta get on a session, man. We gotta
I
get you
know I
going,
do
man.
need to get on the sesh. I be running all the time, so I know I got the gush to get it in. But I
Yeah,
see you working, and you go overtime.
man,
You
brother.
getting it, bro?
Man, well, so being health conscious and obviously trying to live an active lifestyle as much as I can. I met Tim Manson, went to Lincoln High School. He's about 10, 12 years older than I am, but he's the OG
Mhm. Yeah,
of
yeah.
Tacoma, 400-meter track and field star. Went to Wazoo. So he trained, Isaiah Thomas. He trained Doug Christie. Just any top collegiate high school kid,
Mhm.
he's probably touched them. So anyway,
Yeah.
he developed it out of a need for himself and others. And so basically, I had a friend that I was playing in a league with in Seattle,
Mhm.
and he was like talking about movement and exercise and stretching. He's like, hey man, you got to connect with Tim. So anyway, he gave me his number. I ended up
Mhm.
calling Tim. Tim was like, hey, I'm really busy. Sorry, I can't get with you right now. I'll get with you later. I forgot all about it. A couple months goes by. He reaches back out to me and says, hey, I got some time in my schedule. Why don't you come up for a training session? So I'm going up to his facility up north, and I'm nervous because I'm like, he's in great shape. If anyone follows
Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Manson, this guy's like 56 years old. Dude looks like he's, early 20s, ripped out. He's just been doing it his whole life. And
Yeah.
so anyway, we get up there, we do the rebar, and I'm just like, wow. I'm like, he takes me through an hour workout, and I'm just like, it's like a new toy. You're like, what? I've been missing this. I've been missing
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
So it's kind of like now I'm thinking like, man, I got cheated out of my athletic career. I'm like, he's got all the secrets up here. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
He's teaching me.
Yeah.
He's all telling me like, man, if you want to move well and function kinetically, he was like, you need to get this rebar. So basically, I got the rebar. I ended up just kind of collaborating with him. I became certified trainer through him on behalf of
Nice.
using the rebar. And
Yeah.
he just taught me how to use it. And he said, man, this is the best tool to keep longevity in movement. And really, what we want as we get older, besides like having healthy blood sugar, having good blood pressure, things that are the diagnostics in the body, we really want to keep that
Mhm.
mobility, and functional strength, sit in the stand and things like that. So the
Mhm.
rebar really helps the whole kinetic, our whole kinetic chain. And so basically, you could, if you're young, you could use it. If you're older, you could use it. And they have three different resistance bands that are compatible to the user. And so, and it doesn't create a lot of stress on the body, but you can also make it a high intensity workout session. So it really is a multi useful tool. I use it for like days that I'm kind of tired and don't want to beat my body up from running and jumping and stuff like that. I'll jump into the rebar. Yep.
Yeah, I seen you did a couple workouts at a stadium. Um,
Hmm.
when is your next session? When you gonna get back down there and do another session with some people? Do they just
Man,
schedule with you? Is that how they get in contact? They just schedule
yeah,
with you?
message me. Right now, I mean, we're all kind of waiting for this weather to get better. Like we live
Absolutely.
here, it's cold today, and I want to. It's beautiful. The one thing about the rebar is just it's portable. You can take this anywhere. You can travel with it. So yeah, stadium. Basically, just message me. And on my off days from work, I do have a full-time job.
Mhm.
And I'm busy with kids, but I basically will work around my schedule in flux with other people's schedules to kind of like help them get the rebar experience. And the goal for me is to teach people how to use it, and then they can purchase their own. And then once they have it down packed, then they own it. Does that make sense? And I'll
Yeah,
usually
makes
sell,
sense.
I'll tell people like 4 to 6 workouts because it takes some time to get used to the movements. And I want to
Mhm.
make sure that people understand those movements so they don't injure themselves, and that way they're using it right, so that way they feel confident, and then they can just use it whenever they need to and teach other people how to use it.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I see you getting your work in, man, and I'm like, one of these days I'm gonna go and meet him. I just don't feel like I'm ready today.
No, you're ready,
Feels-
man. You could come over to the house. I got plenty of room. You could just message me. I'll run you through a workout, bro.
Hey,
Um,
so where do what part of town do you live in? You still live in Tacoma? Or are you in Lakewood? Where are you guys staying at now?
I live in Lakewood. I live in Oak Brook, actually. So I live pretty close to work. I work at
Yeah,
Western
yeah,
State as an institutional counselor, and I've
absolutely.
been there for about 13 years now. I never knew I'd work in mental health, but I feel like my life growing up and everything I've done is maybe a perfect candidate for understanding people and having
Yeah,
compassion for diversity of things. So yeah, I live in Lakewood, from Tacoma. Miss Tacoma, but yeah.
man.
I mean, I wanted to try somewhere different. I like Lakewood because it's kind of it feels kind of rural, and it's not too far from the things that I like to get to. And
Mhm.
so we're been here for about 7 months, and we love it out here. Actually, it's really nice
That's
for us.
cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah.
So, what was I gonna? There was one other thing that I needed to ask you. I wanted to ask you some scenario questions, but
Okay.
first thing I wanted to just say is, thank you again.
Oh,
Thank you, thank you
man.
for being
Thank
here,
you.
bro. And
That's
I
good.
know, I know you could be doing a lot of other things like sleeping and taking care of
Nah.
yourself, but I appreciate you for showing up, man. I knew you would be a perfect candidate for this because you're a great person. You've been doing so much great in the community, not just with your health and
Yeah.
fitness, but I mean you're a great person
Thank
as
you.
a whole to talk to. We're both in the same field of work. You've been doing it for a little longer than me, but we both do the same thing. Mental health is where it's at, and I've
Yeah.
grown to see life in a different perspective. Since I've been doing my job, I've been there in 8.5 years, so I get it. It's a totally different type of helping a individual when you got they need a lot of help, a lot more help
Let
than
me let me let me ask you this though. Like
whatever.
working in mental health, it teaches you a lot about you too. Because you
Yeah,
gotta, even though you gotta regulate situations, you learn how to regulate yourself
absolutely. Yeah,
more
that's
so,
facts.
right? You
That's
know what I
facts.
mean?
I'm very
Yeah.
passionate, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm very passionate about the people I work with. Like my
Yeah.
my 10 people that that's on my daily schedule are my kids. They're like my kids, even though, they're grown
100%.
adults,
They're like
but
your
that's how
kids.
I am.
Yep.
I'm very passionate. If
That's
if I
how I
feel
am.
like somebody I'm working with isn't treating them fairly, then, we got to have a conversation because, when I show up, I'm in charge. Like, these are,
Yeah.
this is their home. This is where we teach them how to become, positive role models in the community is basically what we're trying to accomplish by what we're doing.
One of the things go ahead.
Sorry,
Sorry,
go ahead.
you off.
No, you good. You
No,
good.
get me all pumped, man. No, it's funny. So I work in Western. People ask me, like, how do you work out there? How do you do this? And Western's a huge hospital, and there's different parts of Western that serve different functions for different people and where they're at in their treatment. We have older population, younger population, more dangerous population, and then we have those who are really going to get back out in the community. The goal is for a lot of people to get back out in the community. So I work in more of a stable transitional program, which is I've kind of like through my years of work have I promoted into where I'm at now. And so what I talk to these guys about, and it's like you said, you speak into these people, and it's like, hey, listen, you have to practice the habits here, like as if you were living out there. You know what I mean? And I was like, and if you're a danger to yourself and a danger to others, you can't get out of here. So I'm always trying to remind these people, like, live your life here in practice. So that way, when you get out, it's a second nature. It's kind of like going to work on your hoop game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Practice game shots, game speed. So when you get in the game, it's not foreign to you. And then the default is use your resources, use your regulating skills, do things you like and enjoy, and then try to come back to baseline. I try to relate to them because some of these people haven't been out in a long time. I try to relate to them. The things that they're working on are the same things that us staff are working on. We still have to manage our family lives. We don't want to come to work sometimes, but we have to come to work. So at the same time, they have to get up and go to their vocational job. So it's all relatable. I try to keep it as relatable. I try to keep it as relatable as I can. And that way, I feel like because of that, I always do well with those I work with. It's always easy for me. I don't feel like it's really hard. For other people, it's hard. It's harder for them at times. But I think it's because they're not as real with themselves. And because of that, that comes off in their work. You see what I'm saying, though?
Yeah.
Comes off in their work.
I'm gonna ask this question, and then I'm gonna get away from work because I don't really want to talk about work.
Yeah, no work. Yeah, don't talk about work.
I am off work right now.
Sorry, people. Sorry.
Hey, but do you feel like, I don't know if it's the same way over there at Western, but do you feel like the worst part of your job is sometimes the people you are working next to?
It's a staff. It's always been that way. And it's not even our line of work. It's other people who say that too.
Yeah.
You know the most popular thing is right now?
What's that?
Is working remotely. COVID has allowed the atmosphere of working remotely. And a lot of people I talk to, not in my line of work, in general, they work mostly from remotely now. And they only have to do the Zoom meetings or have to come in to a building once in a while. And so people don't have to deal with people. But in general, if you talk to anyone across the board, it's like, man, it ain't the job, man. It's the people, man.
It's always the people.
It's challenging. But I just listen, man. I try to give everyone a chance. I try to be not one of those people that are in the nonsense conversations. If people are talking nonsense and it's not constructive, I try to avoid it. I will not sit in the office, man, and listen to these people talk about the program and what these politicians are doing and getting into some nonsense. I'll agree with some things, but then after a while, I'm like, okay, let's move on. I like to change. I like to turn the page after a while, and I hate talking about things without a solution.
Right.
I hate just beating on the same tree. I'm like, okay, so now what? We need a raise. Okay, so I mean, we got to still do work.
We still got to
do work. Yeah, we still got to work. Like, So anyway, you're right. You're 100% right, brother.
All right. So I don't know if there's anybody out there that is watching that has any questions for Anthony. Go ahead and drop them. But I got two more that I want to ask, and then if anybody hasn't asked any, then we'll close up shop. But if you went back to your 15-year-old self and had to give one you had to give advice, one thing, what would that advice be for your 15-year-old self?
Invest in Amazon. No.
Invest in Amazon.
No, that's like a real thing. My wife and I talk about what if we invested in stuff like we were kids. I would tell myself to listen, to learn to trust people and listen. Because I
Mm,
didn't do a good job of that when I was younger. I just didn't trust a lot of people, for various reasons. So I would try to tell myself, hey man, if I knew myself like going back and I'm like, hey, that's me in the future, like what's going on with like a time warp, I would say,
mm,
I probably look at myself like that's what I'm looking like when I'm older. But I would tell myself, hey, to listen and focus in on school, those kind of things, academics more so. I'd have tried to be
okay.
a doctor. I think I would have been a doctor, something like
Really?
that. I would have
Think
focused,
so?
yeah, science and math. I would have focused
I
on
don't know, bro.
a lot of those science and
I,
math. I really, really enjoyed science,
I don't
but
like
I didn't.
blood, so I could never be a doctor. I
I like
don't
helping
like it.
people.
I don't like blood. I don't like
There's
needles.
there could be you don't have to be the doctor like that. You could be like a orthopedic specialist or something. There's all kind of doctors. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, I work with the nurses and they that's brought up by other people. Like I can't stand blood and guts, but yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I'm good on all that. I
But I
mean,
would probably say
I know
listen. Yeah.
there's variables to doctors. They're not all just in the
Hmm.
ICU,
No,
popping out
no.
babies and dealing with broken bones and putting them back in and all that stuff. There's
What would you do? What would you do? 15-year-old self. What would you
if I
tell
went
us?
back to 15-year-old me,
Yeah, what
I
would you
would
what would
I would definitely tell myself to stay in school because
right,
at,
right.
at, at 15 years old, I I got with a girl that was a senior and she had already finished her classes. So I was living the
You was
senior life as a
you was
sophomore.
you was kicking it.
I was living a senior life as a sophomore. I ran away from home. I was staying with Damone Moore. I was remember Alfonso. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I didn't know you stayed with
I would,
Damone though. I didn't know you
bro.
stayed with
I
Damone though.
don't nobody know that. I was homeless. I was jumping from house to house when I was 15, 16 years old, and I stayed with them
Yeah.
guys. And they did a lot of things like turning up and going
Oh
after
yeah.
women and you know
Yeah. Yeah.
they were just wild kids, but good kids at
Yeah.
the same time.
Yeah.
But I just chose not to do school for a whole year, and it set me back. I ended up, not graduating on time. I had to go another extra year. I graduated 5 years. After 5 years, I graduated. But if I graduate on time, I go to college and I stay in college, I would have been done with my degree at 23 years old. But I
Right.
went to
That's
college and I slacked off in college as well,
right.
because
Right.
of women and the money from my dad being in the military. I went to school for free, and because my dad, and I used that money instead of finishing my classes and getting my grades. I just took the money and turned up with it. And so I went to
Right.
school for 2 years, but then after the 2 years, I dropped out because I didn't follow the rules, and they said if you don't follow the rules, you can't be a part of this program anymore, and so they kicked me out.
That's good. I could picture you doing that really well too. Because you were a singer
Dropping
too,
out of
right?
school?
You No, 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 no. Do it. No, no. Being finishing school. No, finishing
Yeah,
school early. I can picture
yeah,
you finishing
yeah,
school early and being focused on academics and doing a really good
yeah,
job. A lot of it's focus. A lot of it is focus. It's avoiding distractions and trying to minimize things that are going to derail you from an objective. That is
yeah,
life right there.
yeah.
Like who what do you want to do? When we were young, I didn't know what I wanted to do at 15. I just wanted to play. Play with my friends and play sports
Absolutely.
and stuff like that, like so like oh I would have done this and done that. Who really knows, But I would love to think that I would listen more to those who are invested in me. Take
Yeah,
take
yeah,
in what they're really telling me because sometimes it's like your parents, hey, you should do this and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. Sometimes
right.
I was that kind of guy and it took me a long time to figure out, hey, certain people are saying they're saying some good things to me. maybe try to listen to that and apply it. You know.
Yeah, because I think
So
about I think when I say stay in school, I think about the whole time, and I think about how things will be different for me today. Like I have $70,000 in loans from
mhm.
finally getting my bachelor's degree. Later on in my life when I could
Yeah,
have had my bachelor's degree for free, not
for free.
unpaid. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? It's like,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's kind of a big deal. And I would definitely go back and say, hey, bro, whatever you do, stay in school. There's going to be women. There's going to be time to, turn up, music, hanging out with friends. You can do all that, but you need to get your school done. That's what I would say. Get that
yeah.
school done.
I like it. What's the next one? I like these questions. These are good.
Well, I didn't really have a next one. I just
Oh, come on.
If you could
That's
say anything to your
boring.
mom right now, what would you say to your mom if she was watching right now? What would you say to your mom? Because it's Mother's Day coming up. We want to make sure that we don't forget about moms.
Me and mom's is cool. Now I just think about that because like some
Yeah,
people ask, well, how are you and your mom's relationship? I've learned to respect her. She's my mother, but as young men, even your father, you learn to understand them as a person. Like I understand her now as Joy, the woman. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I understand. We've had real strong dialogue. So
yeah.
I would tell mom, I love you. You know I love you. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for everything you fought me through, and I just want you to enjoy the day and know that you're loved and thought of. You know.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
yeah, yeah.
All right, so now I'm gonna flip it on you.
Okay,
If your dad was watching right now, what would you say to your dad?
man, I cry. If he was here right now, I'd cry and tell that man I thank you with all my heart for what you've done for the country and us boys.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd be a tough one.
yeah,
That'd be a sobby one. I used to have dreams. I used to have dreams, dude. That I was hugging him, and he would hold me, and he would just put his arm around me and be like and talk to me. It was weird stuff. I had over the years, not all the time, but I'd have these dreams like he was coming to me in my dreams and just trying to give me some advice. You know,
yeah,
it was kind of
yeah,
weird. Like God allowed some of that stuff to happen. It's kind of weird stuff, but
yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Well, hey, and I think I've done my part in digging into your brain and finding out who you are as a person. I knew a lot of the information
Some
that
of the
you
stuff.
shared, but and I knew a little bit.
We
But you
we
know what?
probably could talk for 2 more hours easy.
We could keep going. It's not even hard.
Yeah,
This is
I
easy. I enjoy
I
this.
I think
You
people
know.
logged off. They logged off at an hour mark. It's an hour and
Oh no,
six
we
now.
got 5 people. We got 5 people still watching, man. It's
Oh, that's
cool.
what's up. That's what's up.
And the,
That's
and the
what's up.
great thing about this, for all those that are watching, it's not just on Facebook. You can catch it on YouTube as well. The YouTube channel's up, as you can see in the back. Just find Circle Talk, and you can catch up with Ant and anyone else that's been on Circle Talk. Yeah,
I want to
easy.
thank you too, David. Man, thanks for having me on. We've been actually kind of like off and on, kind of wanting to get together
Yeah,
and making this happen. And I really appreciate you just
yeah,
reaching out. It always feels good to be able to share a part of who we are with other people. And I think
yeah.
this connection that we're making, it needs to happen more just in general with people. I think like
Absolutely,
this is the natural Wi-Fi. You know, being able to
absolutely,
share
absolutely.
our heart and our feelings and just being able to get to know our one another better. And this doesn't have to happen with just friends. This can happen with just our walk in life, you know,
Yeah,
with other people.
absolutely.
So,
You got a
so
question? You got a question that just popped up real quick before we get out of here, bro. What
what is
does
it?
Anthony do for a living? Because I have no idea what y'all's talking about.
I'm an I'm an I'm an institutional counselor for the mental health community at Western State Hospital.
Mhm. Yep. And I am an institutional counselor for mental health at Rainer School in Buckley. So we do the same job, just different places. Yeah, it's good times. Love my job. They don't pay enough, but I love my job.
If you're in the business of that field, you actually can make good money if you want to work, but you're not.
Yeah.
It's not a get rich. I don't know. It's kind
No,
of relative. it's kind of relative because I work with people who have multiple, like they have spousal incomes, they have an extra property, they've been retired military. There's all kind of people I work with. It's relative.
Right.
It's all
Right.
relative. If I can save all the money that I earn and not go to 3 kids and programs and a mortgage, man, I'd be doing all right. But I'm doing all right now. God is good. God is good.
Hey, and did you ever see my brother when he was out there? I know this is way off topic, y'all. Like, we are so not supposed to be talking about this. But did you ever see him when he was there?
No.
Yeah, you know, Jace was there for 2.5 years. Yeah.
He must have been. Oh, that's it. I wonder if he was on the civil side. I probably didn't see him because he was on the civil side. I wonder because there's some people I don't see. Man, he was there. He was off and on, or he was there for 2 years.
He was on and he was off and on. He was off and on. He came in. I think he was there probably 3 times total. But yeah, I would say probably between 2.5, 3 years he was there. You know,
how's he doing? How's he doing now?
My brother is doing amazing now, bro. Like, real talk. You know, he's still in the small, kind of like what is that small company? There's DSHS, and there's a smaller company that has these houses.
Transitional
He's in
transitional community housing.
That's what he's in, transitional community housing. He's doing really well. The people that he is under have been really working hard with keeping him off of drugs. You know, just kind of getting his mind right. And I've really enjoyed having conversations with him again, which is great because, you know, my brother was lost. My brother's been lost since 17, you know, from, you know, doing a drug and it frying his brain cells. You know, he smoked some laced weed, and I guess it was laced bombing fluid, and fried his brain cells, and he hasn't been right ever since. But he is doing well. He's doing well, and you know, all we can do is just continue praying for him, and you know, hope that he continues on his path to recovery. And, you know, even at 43 years old, he still can make it, you know?
Yeah. And I've always noticed that people who have well, obviously drugs are a huge detriment with mental health, because you're not thinking coherently. And so you have, you're more prone to thinking errors and judgment, lack of judgment calls. And if you already have some like issues on top of that, it kind of piles on you. But the ones who do really good is the ones who do have that support, that love, and they find a good balance, whether it's with a family member, transitional housing, and they're able to connect. That connection I'm talking about, that connection is so huge. They really can get on a good pattern of their life. You know, it's those ones who really don't have a lot of people they can rely on or come back to, that they struggle. You know what I mean? So, and yeah, I had a friend out there. Actually, it was kind of, I can't mention names, but anyway, he was out there, and I was just so shocked. And he's like, "Tony, how long am I going to be here?" And all the staff were kind of like, "Why does he know your name?" so I was like, "Man, I grew up around this guy, you know." I mean, we weren't the closest friends, but I knew him. And it sunk my heart, because I felt like, you know, sometimes when we're working in the field that we're working in, we can get numb and disconnected because we're like, oh, these are just some other people's family members and blah, blah, blah. But these are people who have family, or maybe some of them don't. But there's people out here that they are a somebody to somebody. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
At times. And so I thought about that, but he was able to get out, and it just put another layer of focus for like, wow, we can do amazing things here, and this can really help people's lives. And it's not easy, but when the changes that we make in people's life become more real, it's rewarding. It's rewarding to hear your brother's doing good. I like hearing that.
Absolutely.
You know, so that's really good.
Doing great. Well, hey, let's close up shop, guys. I'm gonna let y'all go. We may continue this conversation off record. But thanks again, Ant, for being here, man. It's been a great conversation. We're going to continue to do this. We may end up doing this again. Who knows, y'all? We got lots to talk about. We got the documentary coming up.
We need to talk about basketball. I thought we were talking more about hoop and stuff.
We could go hoop. We could talk about hoop all day long. There's so many layers to everything that we've done. I mean, in our lives when it comes to basketball. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. I wanted to know more about you and share more about you with people. So if anybody wanted to get in contact with you that is in the area to maybe get involved in a workout routine, some type of information about your healthy tips, how can they get in contact with you?
Email or just on Instagram, Andrisek253. That's my IG, and then or just Andrisek11 at yahoo.com. So you can, and then health. I mean, food discussions, supplements for just the proper supplementation, just for different things that someone might have going on. I can kind of assist in that. So I'm really kind of a jack of all trades with that stuff. So I love talking about it. So yeah,
absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we're out of here. Thank you guys for being here. We will be back next week with a good friend of mine. We call him Mr. Network here in town, but nowadays they call him Theo Hall. We're going to talk about the old school, growing up on 15th Street, and he had One Fam record station and been doing music ever since then. We're going to talk about his journey as well and what he's up to today. So watch out for that next week. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for all my sponsors. And we are out of here. Y'all stay blessed and continue to love each other. All right. Take care. Peace.
Bye-bye.